Right guys, success on the, I haven't done it yet, but I've managed to pop out and get a transformer, which hopefully will be okay. I was right. I mean, I think I paid about £9.5 with or without VAT, can't remember, like 20 years ago or something. And this one's just cost me £6, including VAT, like 20 years later. So that was good. So I've got one of those. Hopefully that will all be good. I'll sort that out in a minute or when I get back. The other thing I managed to get, this is, by the way, the I am parked, by the way, that wasn't tooting at me. This is the transformer. I'll give you a closer look at that when I get back. But what I also managed to get, I asked a few questions about the dimmers and stuff, and yes, I think I am on the right tracks of some bulbs and some dimmers not being compatible. So I've got to call up Lutron and see what brands of bulbs they recommend. I'll let you know how that goes and all the rest of it. And I got myself a little, this is a 2 watt, not a 1.5 watt though, but this is a cool white 2 watt LED, which is the one that the one final halogen one that I have to replace in the kitchen. So this should do it. Will be a little bit brighter though, because it's not 1.5 watt, it's 2, which doesn't sound a lot, but when 1.5 is equivalent of 15 and 2 is equivalent of 20 or even 25, you know, that's probably what I would have gone for everywhere actually. But now I can see, I can put that in and see, and if it's noticeably brighter, then maybe somewhere down the line I'll change the others. But what I will say, this though was £4 just for the one, which would have meant it being the equivalent of me paying £24 for the 6, where I paid, what did I pay? £6 for 5. So in a way, it maybe would have been better to have gotten another 5 or whatever, and then had some spares. But I don't really care. This is the wattage that I wanted. This, if this is better than the other ones, then I'm happy to have spent £4 discovering that. And I couldn't get 2 watt ones when I was looking online. So they're also the bulb in the front room wall sconce, which is a 60 watt ES, so a big screw in, big bulb, 60 watt, not 60 watt, sorry, 40 watt. Guy said same as what I thought, you would struggle because it's such a big fit in, you'd struggle in the LED. He had a 25 watt regular one, like a filament, whatever, I've forgotten for the minute what they're called now, the incandescent. He had one of those, but I didn't want to put that in, so I'll wait and see what comes about. But they were really helpful. I only spent a tenner in there, and they were closing up as well, but they were really helpful. So for those of you who are in the Pinner area in North West London, you'll probably have heard of Kalex, and that's where I went. And so I said I'd give them a shout out on my YouTube channel. Anyway, so I've done that. So thanks to those guys. I know things are cheaper online, but it is nice to speak to people sometimes, and they haven't, it's probably cost them more to stand and talk to me than I gave them or whatever, but I'll use them for other things, I'm sure. And I'm on the right tracks, I think, with what I'm piecing together out of what I'm doing. And he was actually saying that the different manufacturers have different specifications for their bulbs, which is exactly what I was finding. And quite often one person's fact is, there's a lot of marketing stuff that looks like technical facts but aren't. So you got to sort of, you've got to, I wouldn't say you got to, well, you have got to watch it a bit, but be prepared to buy 2 things that seem to be spec the same but different manufacturers, and for them to work differently in some way. I can't try the bulbs that are working in the front room or the downstairs hall upstairs because they're a different fitting. So but my conclusions so far are that I'm on track with what my deductions are, and still means I've got to solve the problems, but anyway, I think it makes it even more valid that I'm sharing this stuff with you guys, because even the guy I was talking to in there in Kalex said it's a nightmare, the number of different things you have to consider, and then it changes manufacturer by manufacturer. So I will try and summarize everything as best I can. You'll still, so that if you don't get the results you're expecting, you know that you can, for instance, blame, if you like, not blame the manufacturer, but just try a different brand. So you think, you know, I've got the wattage that I wanted, the fitting that I wanted, the type of bulb I wanted, the type of light color, you know, warmth, you know, whether cool white, warm white, or whatever. I've got all of that right, but this one works, that one doesn't. They're two different brands, you know, right. It's not necessarily that the other brand is cheap, it's just that it's not tolerating your switch or something, you know. So you might find somebody else has the opposite experience in their place, or in a different room you'll have the opposite experience. So it's a little bit trial and error. It's what I said about digital, that's how it goes. There's so many things to think of when you try and replicate, if you like, natural, what I'm going to still call for the time being analog physics, you know, with something that's basically digital. There are things that you take for granted that well, some things you don't have to solve. You might, you know, I know some people have got those bar fires. They used to use heat lamps. Well, you couldn't really have that in an LED, could you? Because they don't really get hot. You could probably manufacture an LED so that it does, but you know, so swings and roundabouts. But as soon as you try to do digitally something that's been done in some sort of analog way for years, you open up a can of worms. You realize that things that, you know, you do this and this, that and the other comes along for the ride. But when you do it digitally, it's a bit like, as a programmer, it's the same thing. You can't say etc. to a computer. It doesn't know that. It's like, if you want this to print more than once, you'd better tell me, and you'd better tell me how many times. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, you can't say to it, print a bunch of those, or print those for everyone on the guest list. It's like, unless your bit of programming has a counter in there to count the number of people on the guest list, or go through one by one and print one, you know, you've literally, it's pedantic. You've got to specify everything. And I'm seeing this with the lighting as well. Is you know, LEDs are very flat. You've got to put a whole bunch of them around, almost like in a circle, to get a circular light. Whereas with a regular bulb, you just have the filament goes across, and that does all the circular. You know, it doesn't make a straight light, does it? It doesn't make a line, doesn't make a laser beam. It just makes a circular glow. So which we just thought, oh, you know, Edison probably thought, all right, fine, seems legit, that would do, that's what we've got, I've done it, it works, you can use this for all kinds of stuff, and away we went. So now, trying to do it in a digital way, you realize that you've got to replicate everything you were getting before that you wanted, that you want. And then sometimes you realize there's some things you didn't want, which you had to put up with, that you can now like for the most part, you don't necessarily need or want heat on bulbs. You don't necessarily want to be, you know, if we had LED bulbs in the beginning and somebody now invents an incandescent one and says it's, you know, gives you a bit of warmth, but it's costs 10 times as much to run, you're like, well, why do I need that in my hallway? You know. So anyway, off I go again. So basically that's it. Kalex, use them if you're around, because they are good guys, they know what they're doing. And I will fit these things, and I'll put that in the video, so I'm going to go back and do that now via probably a free coffee at Waitrose, which I can only get for free if I buy a small cake. How does that work? Right guys, cheers, bye.